Welcome, parents. We're diving into CoA, Go STEAM Plus Language School's Thursday programming course at Zion Christian Academy International. Think of it like a peek into your first grader's digital world, specifically Course B.
Yeah, it's really something to see what these young learners are already doing. I mean, you might hear them talking about, Angry Birds or designing games, but really they're building such a strong foundation in computer science at this age.
Yeah, that's right. And today we'll unpack how those seemingly, simple games and activities are actually translating to essential programming skills.
So let's start with something you might even see at home. I mean, think about like kids giving instructions. Like imagine they're guiding you through a maze, but you're blindfolded. That's basically what they're doing in the Move It game. They're using only their body language to be the programmer.
Oh, that's interesting. So they're learning to break down tasks into those step-by-step instructions before even, touching a computer.
Exactly. That's the heart of algorithms. And it's a skill that goes way beyond just coding. It's about logical thinking and problem solving. Those are crucial for just about any subject.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of games, I hear Angry Birds is a popular tool in Course B. But how does flinging birds at pigs, teach programming?
Well, it's all about sequencing. Students have to carefully think about the order of their actions to reach a goal. So first aim, then you adjust the power, and then launch. That's sequencing in action. And it's the same principle behind writing lines of code.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But what happens when, those birds miss their target? I mean, isn't that frustrating for a first grader?
Oh, of course, and that's where the real learning comes in. Those moments of frustration are actually huge opportunities to teach debugging, which is all about finding and fixing errors. It's such a critical skill for any programmer, and it builds resilience and perseverance. Those are valuable life skills in general.
So they're not just learning to code, but they're learning how to problem solve and overcome challenges too.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's shift gears to another key concept, loops. Now think about a dance routine that has repeating steps. That's pretty much what a loop does in programming. It executes a set of instructions over and over, which saves tons of time and effort.
And in Course B, they're learning about loops through activities like Getting Loopy, where they actually use dance moves to represent code.
Exactly. This makes learning fun, but also helps them visualize how loops work. And it opens these great discussions about patterns and repetition, not just in programming, but in other areas too, like music or dance or even everyday routines. Suddenly, programming concepts are relevant to their world.
Yeah, I love that. It's amazing how these seemingly simple activities can build this strong foundation for future learning. And speaking of future learning, it's not all just about the technical skills, is it? Digital citizenship plays a big role in Course B as well.
Oh, you're absolutely right. We want these young learners to be responsible digital citizens. So we introduce those ideas like digital footprints and online safety really early on. It's almost like teaching them to look both ways before crossing the street. It's that essential for navigating the digital world.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
So how does Course B approach these topics in a way that really engages first graders?
Well, we use a mix of methods, interactive games, discussions, and even storytelling. For example, in the Digital Trails lesson, students learn about the lasting impact of online actions. We use the analogy of animal tracks. Like imagine a deer walking through the woods. It leaves behind footprints, right?
Right, and those footprints tell a story about where the deer has been.
Exactly. It's the same for our actions online. Every website, every picture we post, it all leaves a trace. That's what we call a digital footprint.
So it's like a permanent record of our online activity.
You got it. And just like those deer tracks, our digital footprints can be seen by others. Future employers, college admissions officers.
Wow, that's a powerful way to frame it for young kids. I mean, they might not realize the lasting impact of, what they do online.
That's why we start these conversations early. We want them to be mindful of what they share and with whom.
So it's not about scaring them away from the internet,
Mm,
but more about empowering them to use it responsibly.
exactly. We want them to see that the internet can be this amazing tool for learning and connecting and creating. But it's important to use it wisely.
Okay, so how does the Digital Trails lesson take these abstract ideas and make them tangible for first graders?
Well, we have a lot of interactive activities. For example, we might present scenarios where a student is asked to share personal information in an online game.
Like their home address or phone number.
Exactly. And then we guide them through a discussion about the potential risks of, sharing that information and help them come up with safer alternatives.
So they're learning to think critically about online interactions. And make informed decisions.
Right. It's not about memorizing rules. It's about developing a deeper understanding of online safety principles.
And that understanding goes beyond just protecting themselves right. They also learn about respecting others online.
Absolutely. We talk about things like cyberbullying and the importance of treating others with kindness and respect, even in the digital world.
Wow, it's amazing how this one lesson covers so much, from digital footprints to online etiquette.
It's a fundamental lesson that really sets the stage for responsible digital citizenship throughout their lives.
So we've talked about algorithms and sequencing and loops and digital citizenship. But what about the actual act of creating something with code? How does Course B bridge the gap between learning these concepts
Mm-hmm.
and building real projects?
That's where the concept of events comes in. This is where students see how their code can directly control actions and interactions in the digital world.
So it's like taking all those building blocks and putting them into action.
Exactly. And we make the concept of events really tangible through these fun activities like the Big Event Junior.
Oh, I remember you mentioned that earlier. That's the one where the teacher acts as a remote control, right?
Right. The teacher holds up these signs with different commands like jump or spin, and the students react accordingly.
Yeah, so it's like a playful way to introduce the idea of cause and effect in programming.
It is, and it helps them understand that events trigger actions. It's the same principle behind clicking a button on a website or pressing a key on your keyboard.
I see. So they're starting to see how their code can create interactive experiences.
Precisely. And that understanding leads into more complex projects, like the mini project you mentioned, A Royal Battle with Events.
Right. That's where they design a game with a knight and a dragon.
Yes. And they use events to control the knight's actions. So, like, pressing the right arrow key might make the knight move right. Pressing the space bar might make him swing his sword.
So they're literally bringing their code to life.
They are. And it's so empowering for them to see their ideas take shape like that.
So they're not just learning to code, they're learning to create.
Exactly. And through that process, they're developing critical thinking and problem solving, and even a sense of artistic expression.
It sounds like an incredible journey for these kids. But what about parents who don't have a background in coding? How can we support our children as they learn all this?
That's a great question, and we'll dig into that in our next segment. We'll share some practical tips and resources that parents can use to encourage their children to keep exploring computer science.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to that.
Welcome back. Let's talk about how Course B tackles digital citizenship. It's such an important topic these days.
Yeah, it really is. Because it's not just about, like, the coding itself. It's about preparing them to be responsible online.
Exactly. So in the digital trails lesson, we introduce this idea that, actions online have consequences. We use the analogy of animal tracks. Okay, so imagine a deer walking through the woods. It leaves footprints, right?
Right.
And those footprints kind of tell a story. They show where the deer has been.
Yeah, like where it came from, where it's going.
Exactly. Well, it's the same with our actions online. Every website we visit, every picture we post, it all leaves a trace. And that's what we call a digital footprint.
So it's like a permanent record
Yeah.
of everything we do online.
Yeah, you got it. And just like those deer tracks, our digital footprints can be seen by others, like future employers or college admissions officers.
Wow. I never thought about it like that. They might not realize how important it is to be careful online.
Exactly. That's why it's so important to start these conversations early. We want them to be thoughtful about what they share online and who they're sharing it with.
So it's not about, like, making them afraid of the internet, but more about teaching them to use it responsibly.
Right. We want them to understand that the internet is an incredible tool, for learning, connecting, creating. But they need to use it wisely.
So how do you make these abstract ideas, like, tangible for first graders?
We use a lot of interactive activities. Like we might present a scenario where a student is asked to share personal information in an online game.
Oh, like their home address or their phone number.
Exactly. And then we talk about, what are the risks of sharing that information? And we help them come up with safer alternatives.
So they're learning to really think about their choices online.
Yeah. And make smart decisions.
That's great.
It's not about just memorizing a set of rules. It's about developing that deeper understanding of online safety.
And that understanding goes beyond just protecting themselves right. It's also about respecting others online.
Oh, absolutely. We talk about things like cyberbullying and the importance of being kind and respectful, even when you're online.
I see. So this one lesson covers so much.
It does. We talk about digital footprints and online etiquette. It's really about setting them up to be good digital citizens.
Okay, so we've covered algorithms and sequencing and loops. We even talked about digital citizenship. But what about actually creating something with code? How do they go from learning these concepts to building their own projects?
That's where the idea of events comes in. This is where students start to see how their code can control things, like actions and interactions in a digital space.
So it's like taking all those foundational pieces and putting them together to build something new.
Exactly. And we try to make this concept of events tangible through activities like the Big Event Junior.
Oh, right. You mentioned this before, where the teacher is like a remote control.
Exactly. The teacher will hold up signs with commands like jump or spin, and the students have to respond accordingly.
That's so fun. It's a great way to teach them about cause and effect in programming.
Yeah. It helps them see that an event triggers an action. Like when you click a button on a website, something happens as a result.
Right.
It's the same principle.
Okay, I get it. So they're starting to understand how to make interactive experiences.
Precisely. And this leads into more complex projects, like that mini project you mentioned, a royal battle with events.
Oh, right. The Knight and the Dragon.
Yes. The students get to design this game, and they use events to control what the knight does. So, like, if they press the right arrow key, the knight moves right. If they press the space bar, he swings his sword.
So cool. So they're really making their code come to life.
They are. It's so amazing to see them get excited about their creations.
It sounds like they're learning so much more than just coding.
They really are. They're learning to think critically and solve problems. And they even get to express themselves creatively.
Yeah, that's amazing. But I'm curious, what about parents who might not have a background in coding? How can we support our kids as they learn all of this?
That's a great question. And we'll definitely dive into that in our next segment. We'll share some practical tips and resources that parents can use to encourage their kids to explore computer science.
Perfect. I'm looking forward to it.
Welcome back. You know, we've talked a lot about Course B
Yeah.
and all these incredible concepts they're learning.
Yeah, like algorithms, sequencing loops, even digital citizenship.
Right. And it's clear that they're developing some really valuable skills.
Skills that go way beyond just coding.
Absolutely. These are skills that'll help them in any field, no matter what they decide to do in the future.
Yeah, it's like they're building this mental toolkit to tackle any challenge that comes their way.
I like that.
Yeah.
A mental toolkit. And in today's world, where technology is everywhere, understanding computer science gives them a huge advantage.
It's not just about preparing them for specific jobs. It's about giving them the power to create and innovate.
Exactly. We want them to shape the world around them, not just consume it.
And the best part is, a lot of these skills can be encouraged outside of the classroom, too.
Oh, definitely.
You mentioned earlier that parents can play a role in this, even if they don't know anything about coding.
Right.
So what are some things that parents can do?
Well, it starts with just simple encouragement. Be curious about what they're learning. Ask them questions. What are they working on? What challenges are they facing? What are they excited about?
Yeah, just show them that you're interested.
Exactly. And celebrate their successes, even the small ones.
Oh, it's all about making them feel good about learning.
Right. And you don't have to be a coding expert to do that.
That's good to hear.
You can also create opportunities for them to explore coding in a fun way. There are tons of resources online, like code.org.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
They have these interactive games and tutorials that make learning to code feel like playing.
So it doesn't even feel like work.
Exactly. You could even try the hour of code together as a family.
That's a great idea.
It's a fun way to learn something new and spend time together.
It's never too late to learn.
And it shows your kids that learning is a lifelong journey.
Plus, you might discover you enjoy coding, too.
You never know. But even if you don't become a programmer yourself, just being involved in your child's learning makes a huge difference.
It's about nurturing that love of learning.
Exactly. And by showing them that you value their interest in computer science, you're helping them build confidence and encouraging them to keep exploring.
Those are skills that'll help them in all areas of their lives.
Absolutely. Now, before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one last thought. As you go about your day, pay attention to the events that trigger actions in your own life.
Like how my coffee maker turns on when I press the button.
Exactly. Or how your phone unlocks when you scan your fingerprint. These are all based on the same principles of events and actions that we've been talking about.
Wow. I never thought about it like that.
So encourage your kids to see those connections between the physical world and the digital world. It's a fun way to reinforce their learning.
And it helps them see that coding isn't just this abstract thing. It's all around us.
Exactly. We hope this deep dive has been helpful and that you'll continue to support your child's journey into the world of coding.
It's been so insightful. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us.
Of course, it's been my pleasure.
And to all the parents listening, we hope this has given you a better understanding of what your first grader is learning in Course B. Remember to stay curious, keep asking questions, and most importantly, have fun exploring the world of technology together.
Happy coding, everyone.